Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to The Brian Nichols Show. Tuesday there, folks. Almost forgot what day it was. Brian Nichols here on The Brian Nichols Show, and thank you for joining us on, of course, another fun-filled episode. I am, as always, your humble host. And before we go ahead and get started, want to give a shout out to not just today's sponsor, but the sponsor we have for the next 3 months. That is the Expat Money Summit 2022, November 7th through November 11th. Watch for a week, reap the benefits for generations. Our friend Mikkel Thorpe from the Expat Money Show and host of the Expat Money Podcast and Summit invites you to this free, yes, it is free summit. Yes, it is November 7th through the 11th. Interested, please head to briannicholsshow.com/expat and get your free tickets today. Folks, I'm so excited for our, of course, our fun-filled guests. You know how that handles here in the show. We always have a fun-filled guest. This guest happens to be a returning guest, and I wish we were talking about some more fun-filled topics. David Belman from the Home Building Hero podcast and Belman Homes returns to the program. David, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Brian. It's good to be back. I guess I did okay that I get a return invite, hey?
Not only did you do okay, your conversation was one of the most talked about episodes I've heard of to date because people, number one, they saw the tweet, right? The infamous tweet, the Rob Schneider retweeted the tweet.
Oh, yeah, the lumber, the
where I
lumber
screenshotted
post, right?
you. Yep. The whole thing. I screenshotted you. Yeah, it was a whole thing. He retweeted, but it was about inflation, right? And we're talking about the price of lumber and how you had seen in the home building industry, the price of lumber exponentially increasing. Well, fast forward to today, and we're seeing the conversation not just in the cost of building homes increasing, but now it seems the cost of doing anything, breathing, is going up at exponential rates as well.
For that now next, right?
You can't
Don't
win,
even
David.
say it.
I know you can't win. Well, how about this? Before we go into the doom and gloom, David Belman, reintroduce yourself here to the Brian Nichols Show audience. Who are you? What is Home Building Hero podcast, and how can you help people with homes with Belman Homes?
Fantastic. Well, my name is David Belman. I am a home builder from Wisconsin, and we also do land development. We do real estate work, and I also have a podcast of my own called the Home Building Hero, and we talk all about anything related to homes, from economics to trends. I just was at a really cool technology summit, so I'm going to talk about some of that stuff down the road. So yeah, I got a lot of interesting stuff. If you're ever in the market to build a home or remodel your home, it's a great place to check out because we've got all sorts of advice from beginning to end. So hopefully, my goal is I can't build a house all around the country, but I can help people around the country have a better build.
There you go. Well, and you're not only doing that, but you're helping bridge the world of where we see politics sometimes get stuck in terms of moving things forward in conversation. The political conversation stops that, but you've been able to help foster that conversation by bridging the gap with business owners, entrepreneurs. I had a great time joining you and the amazing crew up there at the Young Guns Summit back in the winter. Unfortunately, can't make it this next one. I know wedding season. What can I say? But I mean, with that being said, though, you're not
stuff. You got to do the weddings.
Oh yeah, I know. But not only you're not only are you helping bridge that world, David, but you're also helping bring real issues that business owners, entrepreneurs are experiencing when they're trying to bring the solutions that they bring to the table that, let's be real, are inherently outside of the realm of government most times, right?
Sure. And that's one of the things that was neat about the last Young Guns conference. And that's another thing that I'm involved with. And we basically help business owners improve. And one of the things that I'm passionate about is trying to reduce regulation in industries. And I'm tired and frustrated of government getting in our way all the time. And they've never shown that they can do anything efficiently. So, I just try to show that, hey, private industry can do things, and a lot of times a lot better and more effective. So part of that is having that conversation and then showing, like in my industry for home building, when you put all the regulation that you have in our industry right now, it's adding $94,000 to the cost of a new home due to local, state, and federal regulation. And, you talk about these young kids and they're going to work and trying to get money so they can buy a house, and they can't afford it because the government's costing so much money. before you even put a shovel in the ground. So that's what I'm really passionate about, is really trying to help the housing affordability issue, because it'll help everybody, because housing is something that everybody should have access to.
Yeah, well, I mean, you need a place to call home, a place that, you know, have a bed, roof over your head at night. Like, it just seems so basic, and we're talking about this not through government going out and mandating homes, right? No, but we're
No.
talking about actually going out and having the solutions inherently built in the marketplace, but making it easier. And that right there, $94,000.
Yes, and
That
that's
blow.
a Wisconsin number. Well, actually, it's nationwide. That's about the average, but that's also what it would be in Wisconsin. So it's just overregulated. I mean, when it takes 2 years to get a subdivision approved, and you have to go through all this red tape, that's part of the problem. When you have to pay all these hookup fees that the municipality keeps and then uses to make improvements, when the new homes are paying for themselves. Like, a new home pays for itself now, and it pays for itself 15 years down the road. So they're kind of targeting new construction to fix the mistakes of the past, and it's a failed policy, right? And so, like, I've been even meeting with some elected officials and some that are trying to get elected, and say, hey, we have to fundamentally look at how we're doing business right now with you, and change it. And I have one guy that I'm working with, I'm really excited about. I hope he gets in. He's running for lieutenant governor, and he's like, I want to go in and I want to start stripping this stuff out. And he's like, we got to start from scratch. I'm like,
What's that
that's what
gentleman's
we need.
name?
His name is William Martin.
William. I was gonna say, he sat at my table at the luncheon.
Yeah, you actually met
Yeah.
Will. So yeah, great guy, and he worked on the Department of Labor side, so he understands how government's put together. He's been in private industry. Like, these are the people that have the practical type of experience to run the government and run it effectively. And these are the kind of people we need to put in place in the future, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, and we talk about this a lot. Where I was actually sent a program where it's an anarchist program, and they're overtly focusing on non-political solutions, which I think a lot of us, you know, in the entrepreneurial small business space, we're okay with,
Yep.
frankly. And we're talking about how you need to, even though even though we don't like the way the game is being played right now, the other side is still playing the game, and they will use the bully pulpit, they will use the club of government to crack down on others. We think it's wrong. We think, ew, you shouldn't
Yep.
use government to do those nasty things. Our political opponents don't have that same belief, and that
Correct.
is where I think it's imperative for us to engage in the political discourse. And this goes to a lot of the real issues we're seeing. And let's dig into some of these, David, because you're seeing it in the business world, specifically in the B2B as well as B2C world. And we talked about inflation, from what you saw with the cost of lumber, the cost of building a house, and we're not even talking about the inflation and costs of government, you know, being
Yep.
involved in the conversation. But let's talk about the other areas, supply chain issues. We're seeing interest rates skyrocketing. So we're seeing all these little issues now hitting at once. What's that impact been in your experience?
So one of the biggest issues that we face right now as a home builder is the supply chain issue. And this really started right when the pandemic kind of hit and opened back up again. Home building just took off. And so one of the things that happened was, as a builder, we signed a bunch of work, and we are excited to finally have some new jobs coming in and things. But then what happened was, um, as you're building these jobs and starting these, they were taking longer, and then all of a sudden, overnight, things would just change. So, for example, my window company used to be a 4-week order to get windows. Well, all of a sudden, overnight, they got a hold of us and like, well, yeah, those windows, it's going to be like 12 to 14 weeks now to get those same windows. And so you got to have a house that's like framed up, and it's all of a sudden now you can't get windows, and it's just sitting there out in the open, getting wet and all these things. So it's bad for construction, then it screws up your whole schedule. And then, because they're taking so long, everything's starting to get more expensive. And it's not just windows, it's the supply chain on things like refrigerators. If you want to get like a really nice high-end refrigerator, you could be waiting 14 months for a refrigerator. It's crazy.
Wow.
So, like, those are some of the things that, we're seeing. There's other stuff like anything manufactured, like trusses. Those are 12 weeks. Cabinets are 12 to 14 weeks. So a normal build is like 6 months. Now we're looking at, 9 months to a year for a normal home. And some of these custom builders that I've been talking to, they're like a year and a half build. Now they're like 2 to 3 years to build some of these homes. And so that's one issue, is the supply chain. But then you also have this inflation thing happening, and it's ridiculous. Like, we talked about the lumber thing last year, and to circle back on that real quick, when we first talked, like, lumber per 1,000 board feet typically is around $400 for 1,000 board feet. That's like the normal baseline pricing. Well, last May when we talked, and when I got fed up, it was $1,400 per 1,000 board feet, and that's like a $30,000 to $40,000 hit on a single home. Well, those numbers went down a little bit in fall, and then in early, I'd say April-ish, they shot back up to even higher. They were $1,700 per 1,000 board feet here in 2022. Now they've come back down a bit, but it's like it keeps going up and then it comes down a little bit and it keeps going up. So the trend line is we're still paying way more for lumber than we ever have, and it's unsustainable.
It made me, so when you were talking about the fridge, I laughed, and I apologize for laughing because it made me think of, I'm a huge Office fan, for anybody who forgets. And there's the one part where Michael just walks in one day and he's like, Pam, I'm going to be a father. And he's like, I'm going to adopt a child. And then Pam starts walking through the process, and she's like explaining how long it's going to take. And he goes, I don't even know if I'm going to want a kid in 16 months or whatever the line is. and that was me. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to want to do that. I want that new fridge in 14 months.
Well, that's what's happening too, is people are ordering this stuff. And then, 6 months later, they're changing their mind. Like, well, I don't need that anymore. Or my financial situation changed. And now take this with a grain of salt. You can go to the store right now and buy a refrigerator. Okay. But you're not going to get the specific one with this. Like, if you want the fancy Sub-Zero with all the doodads in it, you're going to order that and you're going to wait 14 months for that. You could go into a store right now and buy a standard stainless steel one. You may not get the brand you want or the specific feature. You could potentially walk out with one today. But most people, when they're building a home, especially $1 million, $500,000 house, they kind of want what they want.
Yeah.
And so that's an issue. And then the fuel pricing is just huge as well. So, I mean, you're seeing gas prices in my area at $5 a gallon. I started to calculate, I'm like, how many trips do we take to a job site? And then how many trips would, my trades take? And just being conservative, not even using diesel and diesel mileage, I was like, we're at like $2,000 just for standard trips back and forth to a job site on one house. And so it's like, that's just more money out the window that people have to pay. That just, then you start to figure out the diesel vehicles and all that stuff. I mean, it could be up to $5,000-$6,000 just because of fuel.
Wow. So what I wanted to ask next is we're going to dig into, so you can't get the fancy doodads on your fridge and stuff right now, right? That might be the one for 14 months, but do we see this impacting more of the more basic stuff? But before we get there, we want to give a shout out, and by shout out, I mean, it's a special plug because it's my plug. Head over to briannicholsshow.com. You can sign up for our morning sales huddle. When you do, I will go ahead and send over a copy of my new ebook, 4 Easy Steps You Can Implement Now to Sell Liberty to Friends and Family. Go get your free copy today. And by the way, you'll go ahead and get yours truly in your inbox once per week with real sales tips that I taught my sales teams that help lead to their success. I can do the same for you. briannicholsshow.com. You can sign up today. So, David, let's kind of dig into that again. Where do you see this heading? Do you see this heading and impacting other areas like just regular fridges? Will we actually see this supply chain issue hit down the road? And I asked that because I had a gentleman on the show. He's the CEO of a large tungsten company. He's talking about the issue they're seeing with semiconductors in the car world. And that's just, the tip of the iceberg with what we're going to see there. So I'm asking that because do you see this being an issue with what you've seen being, for the long term, even in the not so fancy schmancy, bells and whistles types of features that we're looking for in the new homes, but even for more of the basic stuff?
We've seen it already on basic products. I mean, there was a while where we couldn't get paint, like regular latex paint. You'd think there'd be 1 million gallons of that laying around everywhere, right? I mean, you've had paint for decades. You could never an issue, right? And no, you couldn't get paint. And you'd have to either buy this one specialty upgraded paint just to get paint to finish a house, or you just had to wait. And then they're restricting sales. So well, we'll only give you for the job you need tomorrow, and you have to come back again, and we'll see if we can get you something for the next day. That's not how people do business. It's not
No.
efficient. So, those kind of things. I had my heating contractor. He was like trolling all the sites, like the Home Depots and the worlds, and they don't normally buy stuff from there. They were looking for this specialty part. It's a little like baffle that goes in when you connect a furnace to a ductwork. And they were buying these like crazy and sweeping websites because they couldn't get them from their suppliers. We actually had to order faucets from Amazon for one house because we couldn't get faucets. If you want certain things like matte black, which is really popular right now as a finish, I mean, you're waiting, 6 months to get these type of faucets. I've actually had to, as I built homes, I actually had to buy some cheaper faucets, put them into the home so we could move the people in. And then like 2 months later, when the new stuff comes in, we pull these faucets out, go throw them in another house so we can get an occupancy permit, move someone else in until the regular stuff comes in. So we've had to really adapt. But I see this thing continuing because until our leadership actually wakes up and tries to actually do something and solve the problem, it's going to continue. And it's top down. It's all these regulations in the ports. And like in California, they make all the truckers be vaccinated. A lot of them don't want to be vaccinated. You have all these things where like in California, you have to have a truck that's at least it can be no older than 3 years old to truck in and out of California. Well, if you're a trucker and you're in demand and you can truck all around the country, why would you go to California when you have to deal with all these regulations? Like, forget it. I'll truck to, Nebraska or whatever, where they'll let me do whatever I want to do.
Wow. It's something I don't think we're going to see. Not only do I not think we're going to see it end anytime soon, I think it's just getting started. I don't think we've really realized what happens. And I did an episode in this back in April of 2020. I don't think we realize what happens when you just hit pause on everything.
Yeah. I mean, part of it is from pausing, right? And then, disrupting the workforce, and like a production line, it's only as efficient as it's moving constantly, right? Well, one, we still are not really, we have people that don't want to go back to work and all that kind of stuff. So that's a whole nother part of it.
Yeah.
But part of it is just bad policy. And then, I was in Savannah, Georgia. It's I think the third largest port in the United States. And it was amazing. This was last fall. And a big ship came in, a container ship came in, and people were standing on these sidewalks by the road cheering because a ship came in the port. I mean, I was like, this is madness, right? And the interesting thing about that is the only direct ship to rail yard in the entire country. And somebody else that was on the trip with me had said they saw 70 plus ships. They were counting them and they lost count in the ocean, just docked around waiting to try and get in. And they couldn't offload them fast enough and get them out. This is a huge problem. And you have to wonder, is this manufactured? Are they trying to create this issue? And that's what I'm not sure about. And it's, boy, if that's the case, we've really got some serious things to be concerned about.
Wake up, folks. Time to get active. And I was just talking about this again today in the show there with my friend Trisha. Like, if you have been on the sidelines and you've been like, hey, listen, I don't want to get involved with politics. Well, if the past 2 years have not shown you that politics doesn't care if you do not get involved with it, it will absolutely 100% get involved with you, whether you like it or not. So it's time to get on the sidelines.
I'm not like conspiracy theory guy, but I'll tell you, after some of the stuff I've seen, it's just like I'm getting to the point where I can't not say anything anymore. And like even just people in my office and I'm talking to, I'm like, I'm going to tell people what I feel. And some of the stuff that I'm seeing, it just doesn't make sense, and it's not right. And this whole baby formula thing, if you've been following that, that's just ridiculous as well. And what kind of advanced country that we have that we can't even get baby formula on the shelves, and then they've got millions of pallets of it down by the border, right? And so they have it there, and then all of a sudden Mr. Bill Gates comes out of the woods a week ago with this new synthetic formula, and it's like, okay, this is a manufacturer crisis, in my opinion, if I've ever seen one. And again, I could be wrong on that, but that's sure what it looks like. If it looks like a duck and talks like a duck, walks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
Oh, stop it, David. You're not a biologist. You don't know that.
Well, let's not go into biology.
David Belman, it's been a pleasure. Do me a favor. Obviously, we want folks to go ahead and continue the conversation. So we know the podcast, it's Home Building Hero, where you can go ahead and you have, I think it's like 380 some odd episodes out there. It's insane. You've been so productive and giving people actionable advice, but where can folks go ahead and find you on social media if they want to go ahead and continue the conversation as well?
Sure, absolutely. LinkedIn is my preferred platform. I'm on there quite often. So if you just look me up, it's David Belman, just one L in Bellman, and you can find me on LinkedIn. I do post a lot of stuff about home building and the industry and things like that. I do dabble on Twitter, but it's pretty toxic on there. So I'm debating about my Twitter experience, but it's David Belman 2 with the number 2 for my Twitter handle if you want to check me out there. Otherwise, definitely check out the Home Building Hero podcast if you want any information about the housing market and the housing industry.
Perfect. Well, folks, if you enjoyed the episode, please do me a favor. Go ahead and give today's episode a share. And when you do, please go ahead and give Mr. Belman a shout and tell him that yours truly sent him there. And yes, you can see it scrolling at the bottom of your screen. Please go ahead. And if you're interested in learning how you can reclaim your freedom from chaos and uncertainty, please head to briannicholsshow.com/expat to learn more about the Expat Money Forum Summit 2022. But with that being said, it's Brian Nichols signing off. You're on the Brian Nichols Show for the one and only David Belman from Belman Homes. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to the Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.